Hi everybody, my beautiful, beautiful people. Thanks for tuning in again. So appreciate you watching. As promised, the long-awaited, how much does it actually cost to live on the road as a solo nomad? And I have obviously got to put in a bit of a disclaimer before I go into the figures of everything, that these are my circumstances, and obviously, you know, everybody's situation is different as far as income, savings, expenses and things like that. But just for me personally, this is how much it all costs for me. So when I set off from Mullaney, I was feeling very kind of, you know, rejected from a place that I thought would feel like home for me, because it used to be my old hometown, and I'd stayed there at the showgrounds on and off quite a lot over the years. It had kind of been my northern based home base, in between the road trips north and south that I've been doing for the last 6.5 years. So it's been 6.5 years. It'll be 7 years in June since I first moved into this caravan full time and started road tripping around from place to place. So this trip in particular, this sort of Queensland to Victoria trip through the outback, doing Lightning Ridge, Broken Hill and out that way, was kind of an experiment for me, because I sort of realized that I've just got to stop focusing on wanting a home base. I really had to do a bit of a mental shift in my head about what living in a caravan, having a home on wheels really means, and if I couldn't stay anywhere longer than, you know, a couple of weeks or 4 weeks or whatever the maximum stay of all the places that I go to. And when I say that, I'm talking mainly paid campsites. Free campsites are even less, like they're usually 24, 48, 72 hours, except for Menindee Lakes. Obviously there were people that have been there for a year. If you want to go off grid for extended periods of time, there are probably still a few remote places where that is possible. So I'm always looking out for that. I'm always keeping the options open, but it's nice to know that there are places that you can roll into where there's not that restriction on you on how long you can stay there, and where you would like, you know, if you want to linger, you can. So I do often roll into a place, and if I like it, I stay a while, and I ask them always, what's your maximum stay, and try and stay for as long as possible, because being constantly on the move, like I know a lot of nomads do that, and especially grey nomads, like people that are sort of self-funded retirees who have very expensive caravans and very expensive tow vehicles, and probably have, you know, extensive property and assets at home waiting for them, or they sell that all up to be on the road full time. They do a different kind of traveling, and I've been constantly surprised when I do stay at places. Pretty much that whole journey, I noticed it was quite shocking to me that people would roll in the afternoon, wind the legs down, hitch up the hoses and the you know, the water hose and the drain hose, and then put the power leads in and unhitch the car oftentimes, and then roll out again first thing the next morning, and off they go again. And I'd be like, whoa, like they must have a lot of money to be able to do that, because I personally can't afford to put petrol in my car every single day. Like that's just never going to happen. The other thing is that obviously my truck, being a big heavy American truck with a V8 engine, runs on premium fuel, is not the cheapest way to travel. And so there are, you know, there are limitations to me being able to drive every day. Although fuel economy wise, I've asked people, like in modern Land Cruisers and things like that, like the bigger four-wheel drives that most people use to tow their caravans, it's not a lot different from that. So I was surprised. I was thinking like mine would be really, really, really a lot worse, but it's actually not. So I think I worked it out, it's about 26 litres per 100 kilometres is my average kind of consumption of fuel. And I think somebody said a Land Cruiser has about 24 litres per 100. So I was like, oh, okay, that's not too different when it's towing, you know. Mine doesn't make a difference whether I'm towing or not. It's pretty much the same. So that journey was a kind of a trip to say, okay, well, if you can reframe this I need to stay still thing, and you are going to be told you have to move every so often anyway, then why not make the most of the fact that your home has wheels on it and go and see some of the country, and explore and do that as a sort of a trial run to see whether this is actually affordable for me to do consistently on a long-term basis. Because in the past I've done a journey from, say, Queensland to Victoria, and then I stay a while, and then Victoria to Queensland, and I stay a while. And I've often done that journey quite quickly, and I try to mix up my routes. Like sometimes I'll do the Newell Highway, Cunningham Highway, the interior route. I've done the New England Highway, I've done the Coast Road, and this time I went straight across to South Australia and then came round down South Australia along the coast and into Victoria. So that's and I've got another place where I kind of linger when I'm in Victoria, which is my other kind of home base, which is out in the Wimmera Mallee area, and that's where my storage shed is, and that's my registered address on my driver's license, and like insurance and all that kind of stuff. So I have that as a sort of a base as well, although they do have time limits as well, but it's 57 days, so you can stay a while, really. So that's kind of been those two places have been kind of my beacon home bases. And this journey was a lot slower. So oftentimes I will like save up enough money to get the trip, and then I do the trip, and then I stop a while because I'm broke after that. Can you do this as a way of life is what this was teaching me. And also, take your time. There was no time limit. A lot of times when I've been going from one place to another, it's because there's some family issue or commitments, or there's things I need to do and places that I've committed myself to being at, and I really tried not to do that. This past year was kind of like a little bit more about realizing that making advanced plans for myself when I don't know how I'm going to feel is probably not the best thing for me. So I really have been really mindful of not committing to anything that involves me being in a certain place at a certain date, because things change. It might just be I'm not feeling well, I'm not up for it, I need a rest, or I just, something always happens, and it makes it just very hard to stick to commitments, and that's just my life. So that journey ended up taking me exactly 3 months. The 3 months from the time I left Mullaney to the time I got to Victoria. So a 3 month on the road, full-time road trip. I mean, it take most people a few days, a week maybe. When I first did it, I did it in 3 days, but that was going to pick the caravan up. So I didn't have a caravan at the time, and I stayed in an Airbnb in a cabin at a caravan park, and I was boom, 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 I was there, I was in a rush because I wanted to pick up this beautiful little caravan, which wasn't so beautiful back then. So I've tallied up the totals for it, and I will talk more about my personal budgeting and how I navigate living life on an extremely tight budget. So we're talking about, I think it's $2,000 a month. So on average around $500 a week is pretty much my standard income. And that whole journey, that 3 month journey, was 3,000, there's a lot of threes in this journey, 3,300 kilometers in total. That took me exactly 3 months to the day, from the 13th of the 13th, interestingly, more threes. And as much as I have geared up to be off-grid, and I have the capability to run off-grid for pretty much a week at a time, because that's when my water tank runs out. My water tank, I don't know, I'm some kind of clockwork crazy person, like literally on a Friday, boom, the water will run out and I need to refill my water tank. So if you're, out somewhere remote, you've got a kind of a week before you have to go fill up the tank, and I did find places where I could fill the water tank, but that was good. But what I didn't expect, and that was because I'd probably, you know, left it a little bit too late to be doing an outback journey, heat waves and the heat became oppressive pretty much as soon as I got to Nindigully, and I was off-grid for a week there, and it was starting to get really hot already. And now I know I'm going to sound like a little bit of a princess here, but I do have sensory issues, and one of my sensory issues has always been temperature. I really struggle to regulate myself, and I get very, very distressed and stressed and irritable and grumpy if it's stinking hot. I actually do not too badly in the cold, although, you know, cold can be horrible too, but at least with cold you can layer up and warm up, and there are ways that you can kind of keep yourself warmer when it's cold, which is harder when it's just hot and there's no relief. If you're off grid, obviously, like right now I've got the air conditioning running and I'm at a powered site, so I can do that. And that changed the budget somewhat as well, because I found that as much as I was enjoying off-grid camping, and it's idyllic. If you're living like this, the best way to camp is off-grid. So I will go into another video about all the little things that I've done in preparation to get myself fully off-gridable, with the only limitation being water, really, and there are ways around that as well, and I will go into more of that. But off-gridding is ideal when the temperature is pleasant, but when it's really horrible, I'm not going to. That weekend in Nindigully, I had to sit there and say to myself, you are not a contestant on Survivor. There's no need to suffer needlessly. You can go and pay for a powered site so that you can run your air conditioning unit, have a cold shower or a hot shower or whatever, you know, whenever you need to, which is a bit, you know, limiting obviously in a van with the water as well, if you're not near a water source. And as long as you're not, you know, you don't drive anywhere the whole time that you're staying at a powered site, that's affordable. So this trip was meant to be, there was meant to be a lot more off-grid than there was paid sites, so that blew everything out a little bit. But I'll tell you how much it cost me. So the whole trip, the 3,300 kilometers, cost me a total of $1,863 in petrol, which when you divide it by the 3 months came to about $155 a week. Now obviously there were longer stays in places along that trip, so there were times where I'd spend a week. There was a couple of times where I spent a couple of weeks. I think I ended up being at Silverton near Broken Hill 3 or 4 weeks because of the hospital incident. That, you know, getting sick kind of threw me out there, but I was happy there, so it didn't bother me at all. Honestly, it's all a bit fuzzy now. It becomes a bit of a blur after you've done it, like where was I when, and I have to go back onto my own like Instagram and things to work out where I was. So in amongst all that, in that 3 months, I ended up spending, so in total for powered campsites, $1,873, so almost the same price that I was paying for petrol for 3 months. I paid for accommodation for the ones that I did pay for. That averaged out $156 a week on average. That's usually at least $30 a night to stay in a paid site. But after all that, it came to just over $300 a week. So that's my basic cost to live on the road full time, $300 a week. Even with paid accommodation and petrol and driving 3,300 kilometers over that whole time, $300 a week is actually pretty good. It's a lot cheaper than you could rent a place to live. So for me, that's affordable. With a combination of free camping and paid camping, and a lot more paid camping than there was free camping, $300 a week is pretty much how much it costs me. Now obviously on top of that, you have food, you have your bills, you don't pay electricity, most of it comes from the sun, or if you're at a paid site, it comes from the plug you plug in. I wasn't paying for water or anything like that because I'm just filling it up at taps as I go. My personal budget for food, and I don't really consider this costs on the road, because you are buying food and paying for food no matter where you live. Hopefully you're buying food and paying for food, and hopefully you're eating. Like, that's a good thing. I don't feel like I struggle. Like, I don't feel like food is something that, like, I always eat well. I always eat well, and if it's kind of a poor time, which kind of it is for me at the moment, then I'll buy like 2 kilo things of mince at, like, Aldi had it at $12 a kilo, so I'd stock up on mince. If every now and then I might, get a really nice steak. Steak is great. And when I was out there in the outback, I kept buying these big chunks of meat, 5.5 kilo slabs, and just chopping them up, and that was like 2 weeks worth of food for me, and it was so cheap, like $17.99 a kilo or something like that. So I pretty much ate steak the whole trip, so that didn't feel like I was deprived at all. Steak and eggs, and like, yeah, I about $100 a week. $100 a week is my food budget at the moment. So that, add on to that $300 a week for petrol and accommodation, makes $400 a week, and the other $100 a week is my monthly commitments and expenses, and I'll show you how I do that. And again, my expenses are probably a lot more than some people's because of, I don't know, choices I've made, and they're not things that are necessary, but for me, they're things that I like to have because I'm on the road, and I don't go out to dinner, I don't go to cafes, I don't go to restaurants unless it's very randomly where I'm meeting up with family or friends and there's an occasion to be had and it involves a restaurant. It's so rare in my life. I'd say maybe once every 6 months I go to a restaurant, if that. So there's a few little things I've added in here, and how I work my budget out is I have basically a list. I just write monthly expenses, and I write everything that comes out on the date that it comes out. So it's listed from the 1st of the month down to the 28th, which is my last payment. My monthly expenses, and this is like, I'm really revealing you my whole financial truth right here, right now. So this is how it works. The first one is something that a lot of people tell me I'm crazy, and why do you even bother, and that's too expensive and you should get rid of it, is my storage unit. It's costing me $125 a month. Now, that's actually pretty cheap for a storage unit, which is why it's out in, I call it buttfuck nowhere, Victoria, because it is. It's dry out there too, which is a good thing. Previous to that, my stuff was in a storage shed up in Brisbane, and it was costing me $200 a month. So I've saved money, although I did ship it all down, which cost about $1,500, but that was like years ago. So the $125 a month, I pay that because that's where my memories are kept. So there are things that, sometimes I think, look, if a fire rolled through and burnt the lot, would you be disappointed? Probably not. Like, it would save me $125 a month. I don't. There are boxes in there that have not been opened for pretty much since I left my house in Mullaney, like 10 years ago. So at some point I want to go through the shed and work out, do I really need to keep some of this stuff? But I'm an incredibly sentimental person because I had a life growing up where we were moving all the time. Like, we couldn't keep things. We traveled super light. We were told that, if we couldn't carry it, we couldn't keep it. As kids, we had to fit all of our stuff in a backpack that we could carry ourselves, like very, very minimal. It was hard as a kid to not have treasured things that you could keep. So I probably became a little bit overly sentimental when especially when I settled down and got married and had children. There was no record of my childhood. There was no baby books and photo albums and diaries and, little things from when I was a baby. And so I pedantically held on to all of those things and created those things for my children, and, kept the little outfits that they'd worn and the baby blankets that their great-grandmother had crocheted for them. And just really sentimental things that I just can't part with at all. Like, it's my story. It's hard to sometimes see all the things that I've hung on to because it reminds me of my former life, you know, when I had a house, and there are little nicky-nacky cute things. I'm a real sucker for, if somebody gives me a gift, I'm going to treasure it forever. I just can't get rid of anything that anyone gave me. So that's why my caravan is so full of little knickknacks, because people give me little things all the time, and I treasure that, you know. It means somebody was out and about during the course of the day and they thought about me. And it was like, oh, that's so sweet, you know. So yeah, there's photo albums, and there was a record collection, but I did give that to my son. There's a lot of random things in there that probably I should get rid of some. But then I figured, well, you're paying for the shed regardless of whether it's full or half empty, and it is half empty at the moment. I blame Anne Frank for the reason why I am the way I am about recording my whole life. I read Anne Frank's diary when I was 13, and I was living in Amsterdam, and her house was around the corner, and I went to her house, and I remember thinking, wow, to be able to read the words that a girl wrote in her diary from a time in history that was so significant and important. I just was fascinated by real life history. And I guess my hanging on to things, you know, I remember discovering my mum's friend moved into an old farmhouse, and under the house was these stamp collections and like coin collections and all these relics from like the 30s and 40s and stuff. And I thought that was just the best treasure in the world, you know. And I think that there's part of me that sort of wants to leave some kind of treasure of the past in the way I've lived my life, which is why I've been avidly writing journals, which is what got me into journalism. And then now has become video evidence of my existence. It's just my thing. Anyway, so that's a big expense. That was a big, long explanation for what we've only got the first expense. A lot of you are probably a lot more minimalist than I am and won't have that expense. You can get rid of that. Obviously, the other thing is caravan insurance and car insurance, and I am an insurance Nazi. Seriously, like I am like, is it not PC to use that word at all anymore? I'm not really sure. Anyway, I'm very strict about insurance, and I am always very well insured. Insurance has saved my butt on a couple of occasions now with cars and the caravan. When it got destroyed, I wouldn't have a home to live in if anything happened to this. So I'm very, very strict on that. So that's costing me about $150 a month in insurance. So that's a big one. But like I said, it's insurance is, for me, and I explained this to my son because he's like, oh, why do you bother with insurance? Like, I've never needed it. And I'm like, well, that's great. If you pay for insurance that you never need, then that's the ultimate goal. But for me, it's all about stress reduction in my life. If I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to literally lose my shit if something really tragically bad happens, like say the whole thing burnt down or it was stolen, and this goes for the car and the caravan, that would be life-ending for me. Like, I don't think I'm not real good with stress, believe it or not. You probably would notice that if you'd watch some of my videos. I melt down. I have full-scale meltdowns when a situation that's unexpected, beyond my control, and has no end date or time happens. This brain just doesn't cope. So insurance, super duper important. I've used it a couple of times. I've been so thankful for it. So that's insurance. The other thing that I probably spend a little bit more than a lot of people would need to on is my phone, which is phone and internet, because quite clearly I don't have Wi-Fi or anything like that. So my phone is, I hotspot to my tablet to watch entertainment, YouTube, Netflix, whatever. I also use it when I'm busking for playing my backing tracks, which I use through Spotify. I listen to music all the time when I'm driving, which is streaming. So for streaming, and also I'm uploading videos to YouTube, which takes a lot of data. So I'm spending $75 a month. I don't have a new phone plan. I haven't been able to afford to buy a new phone. I think last time I bought a new phone was my iPhone 7 Plus, which just recently stopped functioning completely, which I was devastated about. And that was in 2016, I think. So it's been 10 years since I bought a new phone. I've been buying like outdated older phones. Like at the moment, I've got an iPhone 13 and an old Samsung Galaxy S20. Those are my phones. And that way I can video record while playing music. Anyway. You could probably cut that expense down. It's particular to my needs because of the fact that I'm a busker and I need to be able to play music and also record at the same time. The other thing I have in my budget is roadside assistance. Essential. $26 a month for RACV roadside assistance. I have the top level cover, which means that if I do break down and I'm far away from home, wherever that is, which is always pretty much, then they will also tow my caravan as well. So make sure, because they changed the levels a few times. That one stage I thought it was at top, and then they created a top of the top, and it was like, oh shit, you know. So check your coverage, make sure that it covers you for wherever you are in Australia and for long distances, and it covers your caravan as well. That's really important. These are all coming out, like we're down to the 15th now, so the 15th of the month. On the 18th of the month, $20 a month comes out. Now this is a little bit silly too, but hey, I'm a dreamer. Is the $20 a month goes to RSL because I buy tickets in the RSL Prize Home Lottery. I still think I'm going to win it one day. Stay tuned, because that'll be an exciting video. I've been buying tickets in that ever since I can remember. And, you know, you get these millions of dollar properties that are usually on a coast somewhere that I would never want to live in a million years. Like, they're not my cup of tea at all. But I do, you know, think about being able to help my children, because I really feel sorry for the fact that even though I was able to buy a house, you know, fairly young, in my late 20s, you know, with a young family, my kids won't be able to do that, like not at the prices that they're, you know. So if I did win something like that, I'd set my kids up for life, and I'd like to still buy a property, you know, that vision I have of a big enough property where other people in situations like me could come and stay, and you know, sort of a very large caravan park, or maybe buy a caravan park and other people could go and live in it as well. Something like that. I'd like to do something that would help not just my circumstances but other people's as well. So that's why I spend $20 a month with RSL. Even if I never win it, it's a good enough cause that I'm happy to contribute to that. On the 20th of the month, Spotify comes out, and of course Spotify Premium. I don't do ads. I cannot do ads. That is essential for me because it plays my music in the background when I'm driving, and it also is my backing tracks for when I'm busking. So that's kind of important. $16 a month, happily pay for that. On the 23rd of the month, YouTube Premium, another essential, because ads, who wants ads on your YouTube? I mean, it's annoying enough that pretty much every single creator that I watch these days is got the ads of the whatever products. They actually make the ad themselves, so it becomes part of the video. So you can't get away with being sold something. But if you don't have premium, YouTube can put, and it's not up to the creator, by the way. Like, if you don't have premium and you're getting ads on my videos right now, that's not my doing. Like, yes, I monetize because obviously I will get some ad revenue from those ads, and I'm thankful for that. But I don't decide where they go or what they're about. That's targeted to you, apparently. So I don't know. I've never had it. I don't know what ads come up or how often. I've only ticked on like the minimum, which I think is a mid-roll ad, and maybe one at the beginning, at the end. You can, as a creator, if you want to, choose to put more ads in there because you want to make more money, but I would never do that. I don't know, I don't like ads, and I don't like anyone selling me anything, to be honest with you, which is why I often, I don't know, does every single YouTuber tell you to make sure you click like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you know when their next video is coming up? Like, everybody does that. Why does everybody do that? I don't understand. I mean, I've probably done it maybe a couple of times, but it's only because they tell you that you're supposed to do that and everyone else is doing it. And I think to myself, I don't know, maybe this is Autie brain, but I'm not going to do something just because you told me to. I'm not going to click like on a video because you told me to. I'm not going to subscribe to your channel because you told me to. I will click like because I like it, and I will click subscribe because I genuinely want to see more of your content. I never hit the notification bell. Yes, I often miss a lot of content, but here's a tip. If you subscribe to certain channels and you're sick of the algorithm feeding you a bunch of stuff that isn't anything to do with what you are wanting to see, there is a little down the bottom of your YouTube screen. I mean, this is I only watch on my phone, so it might be different on a TV, but there is an actual tab button for subscriptions, and it usually has a red dot above it, which means somebody you subscribe to has uploaded content. Just bypass the main home screen, go straight to your subscription page, and there you go. There's the people. I started missing videos. Like, there's one lady that I was watching that I was really enjoying, and I hadn't seen stuff from her for months and months and months, and then I go into my subscriptions, there it is. So now I just go straight there and watch people that anyway, it feels like everyone's trying to sell you something. They've got courses, and it's like courses or meditations. If you're into like spiritual stuff, everyone's trying to sell you something. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm like, if you want to watch my crazy life, watch my crazy life. If you subscribe, that's awesome. I'm stoked with that. If you join up as a member, I love you forever. But I just feel really uncomfortable, like, yeah, selling things. I have been contacted by a few product type people that want me to try something in return for doing a video about their product on my channel, and I haven't accepted any of them because it annoys me when other people do that, and I don't want to be one of those people that's annoying you by trying to tell you that this product's great. If I do talk about a product on here, it's literally because I bought it, I love it, and I think you guys would benefit from it if you're living this type of lifestyle. That's all. And the very last thing on my monthly expenses is Dropbox, which is like a cloud type, cloud-based storage thing that I've had that since when I was doing my magazine, because it was like we could upload huge files, and my graphic designer could access it, and we would lay out the whole magazine, and we could basically work remotely and communicate, sharing files with each other. So my life's work is on that Dropbox account, and I will never get rid of that. So now it's become where I'm uploading my videos, because I don't have the storage capabilities in my phone to save all my videos and photos and things like that I like to keep. So it all goes up to Dropbox. So I think there are other things like iCloud, and I don't know, there's probably a Samsung version of it. Look, my experience with other things, Google storage, I think, and I think I had that for a little while once upon a time, but it really annoyed me because it actually reduced the resolution of the files, which is really annoying because I'm really a stickler for clarity, and if I take a photo and it's a big, file size, I want it to stay that file size, because especially when you run a magazine, it's really important that it doesn't reduce the file. So Dropbox is important. So yeah, all of that comes to just over $400 a month. So that's another $100 a week. So there you have the $300. So it's $150 for petrol, $150 for accommodation, $100 for food, and $100 for all my expenses. I can survive quite comfortably as a full-time nomad on the road. But let's talk about some other expenses. The unexpected expenses. And this is what threw me. Now, I was supposed to have at least, and I usually try to have at least $1,500 to $2,000 sitting aside in a special savings account for my if something goes wrong fund. And to do that, I'll busk my little tushy off before I hit the road. And given that I was kind of unceremoniously turfed from the Mullaney Showgrounds, and had already committed to getting things like the canopy on the truck, which didn't cost me anything. The canopy was actually given to me by a guy that was selling it on Marketplace for $150. In the end, he said, just take it. I got it for nothing, but I did spend money to get it sealed up, because it was fiberglass, was all fibrous, and it was like coming off on me when I touched it. So I had a guy seal it and paint it. I had gas struts put on the back of it, because the original hinges that opened and shut it, one of them had broken completely and the other one was very, very rusty. So I got gas struts put on that, and I had to get the lock replaced because it had no key. So I committed to getting that all done before I hit the road, and then all of a sudden it's like, you've got 4 days and you have to be out of here. I was like, oh shit, I was going to need more time to get the savings account for the oh crap account, and that's, honestly, I'm going to do another video at some stage about the questions I get asked as far as, is it safe to be a woman out there on your road, and aren't you ever afraid, is probably the number one question I get asked predominantly by women is are you afraid? Is it scary? And I always respond that the scariest thing about being a solo female nomad on the road full time for as many years as I have been, the scariest thing for me, without a doubt, is the truck breaking down. It's scary because it disrupts my plan, and I'm very, even though it looks like my life is very carefree and hapsadaisical, I'm actually quite regimentedly, about, I just like things to be predictable. I do actually prefer structure and routine in my life, so putting myself out there and changing everything all the time is exciting and fun, but it's also can be a little bit dauntingly scary for me, just because I'm autistic and I have a weird brain, and it doesn't adapt super well to sudden changes that are not expected. So the truck breaking down is something that has obviously would blow that, so that even though on paper I've managed to live within my means of $500 a week, $2,000 a month, as just normal life goes, what I didn't take into account in those expenses was the repair. The starter motor in Broken Hill, or actually on the border of South Australia and New South Wales, but I got towed back to Broken Hill. And look, I've had starter motors, I've been into cars for a really long time, and I have a pretty good idea. I'm also really methodical about keeping every receipt from every mechanic I've ever been to, so I've got a record for every other mechanic that can see what's been done. And my mechanic up in Mullaney, who got the truck really ready, I mean, he couldn't have predicted a starter motor failing. That wasn't his fault at all. It's probably, everything in there is original, so it's old. I do have an awareness of how much most things should cost, and he said to me straight away, he goes, Lisa, you have been ripped off so many times. I went through your book, your A4 folder that you've got in the truck, and could see that you've literally been taken advantage of by so many mechanics. And I was like, yeah, I know when that happens, but I don't know how to stop it from happening. And when that mechanic, in Broken Hill tried to get extra money out of me for a rental car, like they even billed RACV for a rental car that I hadn't gotten, and I actually said to RACV, actually I didn't get the rental car, I don't need the rental car. They wouldn't drop me off at the caravan park, even though they drove straight past it. I knew straight away, I was like, oh God, I'm going to get ripped off here. There's no question about it. but they did have me over barrel. To pay over $1,040 that ended up costing to replace a starter motor. Outrageous. When I went to Ballarat, what happened then? Oh, the bearings, that's right. The bearings went on the truck. Even if we made it $1,200, just to bring it easy to make my maths easier, add an extra $1,200. So that would be an extra $100 a week. So it's still not too bad, is it really? So that brings it up to $600 a week. So $600 a week, including the repair jobs. Now, I was extremely, really fortunate that some of you incredible people out there just have been giving me donations. A special shout out to Christy, who has been like some kind of heavenly angel with her little regular donations, not little, like generous regular donations that are probably the only reason I survived most of that trip. Just people being so kind and helpful to me. And I know I go on and on about this, but it literally blows my mind. Like, I'm so, like, I don't feel like I deserve it. Like, I'm so appreciative, and I couldn't have gotten through without it. But I'm also like, oh, you know, as soon as I can go busking, I can go busking, and then I won't need anyone's help. Like, I'm fiercely independent, and that, a lot of that is childhood trauma. Like, we've been taught when nobody meets your needs when you're growing up, you become really quite pedantic about, I can do it myself, I don't need anybody, and I'm very trying so hard to be independent and resilient and resourceful, and people are always congratulating me for that, and I'm like, there's a little part of me that's just, oh, it's raining, is just really thankful that somebody's going, actually, Lacey, don't push yourself beyond your limits, we'll actually give you a hand. And I'm like, thank you. So that's been really helpful. And obviously, you know, YouTube income, as I said, it's about, I think I said this in my last video, it's between $200 and $300 a month that I get for ad revenue. So that's helpful too. That'll cover me for extra expenses and things like that. And if I can go busking, I went busking yesterday, and that was really fun because I enjoy the process of making the music and practicing my skills, but just how happy it makes other people out there when I'm making music. Just, it's wonderful for me. So anyway, I better wrap this up because it's literally just started raining and it sounds quite heavy, so it might get really noisy on my roof about now because, yeah, but how am I doing? I'm doing okay. My hands are not the greatest. I've got this, this stuff by my bed, which, if you have soreness, hands, arthritis, anything like that, this stuff is quite nice. I've been rubbing that into my hands every morning. The first couple of hours when I wake up are always the worst, but then I kind of eases up a little bit. I also have to go because I've got an amazing subscriber friend coming to visit me right now, and she's probably going to be here any minute. I'm bummed that it's raining for her because she's probably only going to hang for one night. And we've been talking about this trip because my next kind of big journey, which I had planned, in case some of you are wondering, where am I going, what am I doing? The next big leg of the journey is to head back up to South Australia, and I wasn't really sure which direction, how, but I was either going to do the Nullarbor up to WA and then come back through to do Uluru, because I've been putting off Uluru for a long time and it's a bucket list thing I really want to do, or whether I do the other way, I don't really know. But either way, WA hasn't been done yet at all since I had the caravan. I haven't done WA or Northern Territory. Everywhere else I've been. So they're my bucket listy things. And Samantha was planning on doing pretty much the exact same trip, and we've been talking about, should we do it together, you know, once it's not so hot. But then I had this hit the wall thing, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to embark along another big trip. I have had the truck serviced, but I haven't had the little extra divilaki things done to it. Look, there's no real reason why I couldn't do it, but obviously the fear of not being able to afford it was a big part of it. So anyway, it's really, really raining now. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for your help and everything, honestly, and just for even being interested in this crazy life of mine. And I hope, you know, if you're planning or thinking about doing this, I hope that me showing you that it can be done on a pretty tight budget if you're on a pension. It is doable, but there are certain things you have to give up in order to do that, and that's coffees out, lunches out, cafes, dinners out, cigarettes, alcohol. Forget it. If you don't want to do any of those things, you can do it. All right, it's really raining now. I love you guys. Bye.